Yeah, that's it.
All right, I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll stand and face the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. I'll second.
Motion by John Hammond, second by Harry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Citizens Forum. Any chance for anybody in the audience to say anything?
I have a couple questions. So the ref,
Fill out a sheet up there, you can fill it out, if you wanna just give us the information you have, then make sure we fill out a sheet, because we file that.
Okay.
For public comment.
I can get this to you in a
If
second.
you wanna just ask your question, and make sure that, just take a peek at, you know, the protocol and things, they can't answer any questions or anything, but you can give your comment.
Okay. I realize you can't answer questions necessarily, but I will ask nonetheless. The referendum that you guys are looking at, how much, people want to know, like, how much more over your budget that you're seeking to spend for the next 4 years. That's basically what we're wondering, so,
And some of that, you might even get answered in the meeting.
okay, thank you.
My name is Karen Vanderhook Jensen. I'm your neighbor right next door. I am not totally understanding what it is that you're wishing to do, so I'm going to be a listener and a learner tonight. But when it comes to handing out somebody an open checkbook, I would definitely say that it's not a wise move. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting Monday, December 15th, 2025.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Matthew McNally, second by John Hammond. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the minutes of the special board meeting Monday, December 23rd, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes December 23rd, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Matthew McNally, second by John Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Roger?
I'll make a motion to approve vouchers 86095 through and 86150, 86152, and then 86150 through 86179. Electronic funds transfers 2025-00187, 202, 207 through 209, 211 through 215, 227 to 235, 237 through 252, 261 through 263, and then 260 26092 through 94, 96 through 106, 110 through 116, and 118 through 120.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Rod Perry, second by Matthew McNally. To to approval of the vouchers and EFTs as stated. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. New business, board development, middle school bully busters presentation.
Well, we have a lot of sickness in our school. And we've had a couple of them go home today.
So we had, our group is gonna come next month, we had a middle school girls basketball game, and we had 3 who were gonna present, and then 2 of them came up playing today, so one didn't want, not want to present themselves.
Okay, so we'll table that till next month. Health nursing report by Kay.
So Tammy's here and she put together her annual report for you. Now, this is out of, 24, 25, data from last year.
Yeah, I'll give you a little tidbits on some of the stuff this year, but this is mostly last year's report. We met all of our standards. We did have Dr. Plowman as our medical advisor through the 24-25 school year. He did leave in the summer, and so we sought out Dr. Ponchak. She is one of the newer physicians that works at the Necedah clinic. And she has been coming in and helping us with some of the presentations for 7th grade medical things, wellness, those kind of things. And so she now for this school year has stepped into that role. So if you guys have questions or feedback for her, that's who we would go to now instead of Dr. Plowman for this upcoming year. Most of my report, I've got a little bit of slides for you. So you can see our enrollment from my perspective is about the same. If you scroll that, I don't know who has it. If you can scroll up a little bit so that it brings up the blue. But you can see our visits, medications, procedure care visits is quite high again compared to the previous year. And you'll see some of the statistics as we get rolling in all of this. Office visits, if you scroll to the next one, so there's a pie chart. Office visits, elementary, we had 1,482 office visits and 992 on the middle school, high school side. Of that, about 12% of them went home by me. And then I break it down so that you can see in the elementary office, I saw 88% of the elementary students, 10% were seen by secretaries, and then a small little chink for paras, teachers, that kind of thing. On the middle school, high school side, I saw 85% of those kiddos, and 13% were seen by secretaries, and then a small little 2% wedge with teachers and paras on that. So there's definitely been an upswing in visits back to my office. That's just kind of showing an infographic on what our visits have looked like over the years. So the blue is our newest year, 24-25 school year, and it's just a comparison of just all of the visits. If you look at everything, it's about a 90-10 split between me seeing students and secretaries or other seeing kiddos, which is a little bit different. In past years, we've had about 75-25, and so that is an uptick now with me being back full-time this last school year. We've had a lot of extra visits. When you look at the health encounters on that infographic, 2,474 office visits. Scheduled medications was 4,616 doses. That's daily scheduled medications that we gave out. And then we gave out 750 as needed doses. So that grand total this year for medication was 5,366 doses of meds. We were just under 5,000 the year before at 4,997. So you can see we continue to uptick. This year, I guarantee you we will be more than 5,000 because I've had a ton more students, especially in the mornings. I've got 18, I think, right now that are getting meds just in the mornings alone, which is a huge uptick. Parents either aren't available to be able to give kids, they can't get them to take them, and so they leave it up to me in our office to administer them. And so we have a large number of kiddos, it's quite a juggling act in the mornings to get kids cycled through and get them back into classes, once they get off of the buses. And then any of the illnesses and injuries are all rolling into my office and parents first thing in the mornings too. So it's quite a feat if you come over to my office first thing in the morning. And then you'll see I have 338, I don't know what happened to that, this one off. 338 total procedures. That would include any, it's just up a little bit. That would include anything from G-tube feedings, catheterizations, sometimes we have diabetic procedures that are being done, so we have a couple of diabetics that are in our school building. So there's an assortment of different procedures. Sometimes it's scheduled dressing changes that are doctor ordered. Those would all fall under those categories. Not a lot for hearing screens. Those are done based on teacher or parent or based on IEP requests. And then as you can see, lots of calls and emails. That seems to be a constant. When you look at the breakdown on specific health visits and encounters, you can see that everything is climbing. Errors are not climbing. We only had 11 errors in medication administration. So when you look at that compared to 5,400 doses of meds that are given, 11 errors is a normal human being or less. It truly is. The secretaries do a great job in my absence in making sure that the kids get doses of meds that they need. And when they don't show up for meds, we track them down. So, it's a pretty big accomplishment on that. Vision screens, we did not have any last year. We discussed this in my last board meeting. I think Dr. McNally was quite interested in that. And I worked with Prevent Blindness quite a bit and had a few things in place, and then the Lions Club stepped up this year. So you will see that the Lions Club came in starting the 25-26 school year to start seeing students again. So that was a huge blessing. Now I'm working on trying to rescreen some of the kiddos that didn't pass or that we needed to recheck. Dental screenings, we're still working with the Noble Clinic out of Mauston mostly. They have our Seal the Smile program, and they see the majority of the kids from 2nd grade through 12th grade that have been consented by parents. It is a free program. Usually we have somewhere around $80,000 to $100,000 in savings value with the services that are provided on our students from 2nd through 12th grade. They will apply sealants on any of the grade levels that students have an erupted tooth, which is a big step. We used to only do it 2nd and 5th and 6th grades. This year they've incorporated all grades in doing that. And we are definitely seeing an increase in parents wanting to provide or to get that service, because working closely with Noble Clinic, we can then get them worked into the dental clinics very fast too. And so last year I had a success story that I put in here just to share with you guys. We had a couple of students that were really struggling, lots of cavities. They were coming into my office a lot with tooth pains. We were calling home. They weren't getting anywhere. I said, can you do these consents? We'll work with them. They got the consents done within a day. We had those kids in. One kid had 3 abscesses from the cavities that had just been sitting open, holes in their mouths, and the other student had 2 abscesses that they were able to get them scheduled right away, get them on antibiotics, get their tooth pains taken care of, and start working on their dental care. Think about those kids sitting in those classrooms who have pain, and how do they function? How do you concentrate? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I have a toothache, I can't, you're popping pills, and these kids don't have meds that they're taking, and they're trying to get through the day. So we've had a lot of success with our dental program. We're actually going to pilot here in March with Noble Clinic. They have outfitted a large RV van that is going to be coming to our school and one other school to pilot the program where they're bringing in a dentist. And they have 2 exam areas and parents will have to consent. But they will bring in x-ray machines, they will x-ray, the dentist will work on them, they'll be able to repair, do dental cavities, whatever else needs to be done so that those parents don't have to take off work and get them into a dentist. So we're waiting, our last visit with our dental hygienists are gonna be at the end of January, and then we'll have a finalized list and then reach out to parents to see who's gonna be interested in this service. That will not completely be free, that will be billed through insurance with them coming in, and so parents will get that information when they get their packets. But we've had a lot of success, and we're very fortunate to be able to partner with them and continue to expand services that they're bringing into our facility. So, let's see, what else can I tell you on that? Can you scroll down to just my health statistics? There's a couple more pie charts down or up a little bit further. I don't know if you can get to them.
When
Up,
it,
up
when you
or
see
wherever
a
it
while,
goes.
it freezes and then I have to.
Oh, okay.
restart, so
Okay,
I'll
so,
get it.
oh, okay, it will be coming. I will give
There you
you some of the updated, oh, perfect. So these are some of the updated health statistics, and I'm gonna preface this. In the past, we have used the top 5 major medical concerns for teenagers across the US. In the past, that has been some diabetes, anaphylaxis, allergies, seizures, asthma, or reactive airway is kind of the new buzz-all term. And then some mental health, mostly ADHD. That has been a big uptick since COVID, where we've started seeing more and more of the mental health. The newest statistics are now in identifying the top current chronic diseases as being mental health number 1, including depression and anxiety. Asthma is number 2, ADHD is number 3, obesity, and then diabetes, seizures, and anaphylactic allergies are kind of lumped together at the tail end of everything. And so when you look at the breakdown on my statistics, you will see a comparison of 23 to 24 and 24-25. So major medical, we were at 40%. Previous, it was 16%, but we now are lumping in the major medical of including anxiety and depression. That was a sidebar before. And then mental health overall, we're up about 5% to 24% of our student body. And when you're looking at overall some medical condition, we're looking at 61% of all of our students that have some kind of diagnosed medical condition. When you look at the rise with ADHD in particular and anxiety and depressions, you're also starting to lump in suicidal things. And so we've started quite a few new things here at school. Heather Moore has started a program where she got a grant, and we're doing some peer-to-peer programming, and she's continuing that this year. And so we're working with some of the kids on mental health and suicide awareness projects within the school building. We are also looking at, so obesity is one of the targets now. I don't have a great way of assessing that. Officially, I can't pull some of our data statistics that we do for PE and put it into their health file. There's a cross between HIPAA and FERPA, and so bringing that data in is different. And so I don't directly take weights, BMIs, and other things to calculate for obesity here. And so there's not a good way for me to track all of that stuff. Parents that are doing, there's a health infographic that's done in the PE classes, and that gives a breakdown because the PE teachers do collect some of that data. So parents will get that, and then it kicks back to the doctors, hopefully. But I don't have a good stance on that one. That's just one of the new ones that the US has incorporated into. And clearly that obesity wasn't there prior to COVID. So we've definitely seen an uptick in that as well, as some of the mental health increases over the years. CPR, we continue to have 3 AEDs in our building. One does go outside when we have either fall sports or spring sports. We now have a box that's out there by the softball side of the field that houses our AED out there. Typically, the athletic trainer and I helped work hand in hand to make sure that we had all of our things functioning. And that was the case for last year. This year, we don't have an athletic trainer, and so I've been kind of bouncing around and trying to keep up with all of that stuff as well. We have 14 staff that were trained in CPR and AED as of last school year. We're working on getting some of our coaches trained and completed this year as well. Immunizations, we hit 100% on immunizations. That was a difficult task last year and this year. We now have the new updated DHS standards, which now require a meningitis at both 7th grade and 12th grade. And so, you know, there were a lot of parents that were caught off guard because it came in August, just before the school year started, is when that law got passed. So we had to catch up a lot of our kiddos, and we're able to successfully do that. And there's an integration program to catch the ones that are in between the 7th and 12th grade as they move up the chain, so that by the time they get to 12th grade, we'll have caught everyone up then, so that they've got the 2 immunizations. And then the meningitis got moved to 7th grade rather than 6th grade. The meningitis manufacturers had a certain age, and the American Academy of Pediatrics had a different age, and there was always this rift between when do we give the Tdaps, when do we not, and so that the Tdap and the meningitis are now being given 7th grade, so it brings it more up into a 12-year-old range versus the 10 and 11-year range that some of our 6th graders were sitting in. I think that's about it for the majority of our report. I know you guys always like to know we are starting to see the uptick of influenzas and illnesses right now. I think I heard on the elementary side we had 38 out. That was before I sent any out today. The last 2 weeks have been pretty brutal in my office. And we're getting reports of a lot of influenza A and B. This is the normal time frame when we would get. January and February is when we start getting all of those illnesses anyways. And that's what we've traditionally had. So it's just reminding staff and students and families, like, hand washings, good hygienes, taking care of yourself, don't come to school if you're sick. You know, I was telling Dr. McNally, I had someone that had a temperature at 102.8 this morning by 8:30 in the morning. So they were clearly sick before they came to school, and they're just infecting anyone that's on the buses when they come to school, etc. And you know, and it impacted a staff member who had been around that particular student who now isn't feeling well either. And so if we're gonna keep our staff healthy, we need to try and focus on our kids too and keeping them healthy. Questions on my report?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would just like to add one comment. Nurse Cammie has done a phenomenal job with some of the partnerships. I know she had mentioned Noble and that partnership. I mean, we're very, very fortunate to be one of 2 school districts that are going to be a part of that pilot for our children to have dental care. As many of you know, there's a lot of research behind dental care and sickness, and so to get our students access to some of that is, in our rural community, is very, very, very positive. So, and we wouldn't have that kind of confidence from them to put us in the grant if we didn't have the consistency and the talents of Nurse Cammie. So we're very proud of that. The second thing I would just like to mention is, as a school, we have continued to really focus on the mental health aspect of what it is we do. That's a number one major medical at this point. And Nurse Cammy has taken it upon herself to really head various aspects of really taking care of our kids' mental health. And so we're very proud to have that advocacy from a staff member, a mom, and it's been very positive in our school. So we're very proud to have the advocacy around especially suicide awareness. So thank you, Nurse Cammy, for all your hard work in that area too.
Okay. Open enrollment determinations for 2026-27 special education camps.
Mr. Sherman, you want to just give a little overview of the analysis and what we decided?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at our numbers currently, we're right around that 130 student mark for our total student, special education student number. I would say based on our caseloads and workloads, I would recommend that we keep our open enrollment numbers at 0 from K through 12.
So this is not unlike any year since I've been here. This is year 9. We have not taken students with special needs simply because of the cost associated with that. It puts a significant burden on our school district and the staff shortages in special education and other related special education services. So it becomes impossible for us to service children beyond those that are residents in our district. So once again, the recommendation is to take 0 special education students and maintain just the services for our resident students. So those 130 students are all resident students, unless they had a sibling here already and they were identified after they were already here.
I'll make a motion to approve the special education enrollment cap, accepting 0 students for the year 2026-27 school year.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Roger Harris, second by John Ard, to keep our special education cap at 0. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit for 4 years for non-recurring purposes.
So we've had 2 board meetings now where we've had discussions with both our financial advisor as well as a board. And we've held finance information sessions for our school community. We've held 2 of those. And so after a lot of contemplation and difficult decision-making, we now have it as an agendized item to consider the possibility of going and renewing our operational referendum. And so there are really 2 major things guiding this difficult decision. One is our special education reimbursement. That is a primary indicator. So I had put this graph together just as a way to show us our burden of unfunded special education costs is over $13 million the last decade. So over 10 years, our operational budget, our general Fund 10 operational budget, has funded over $13 million of unfunded special education costs. Okay, over 13 million. And that is because we're underfunded. This year, we're looking at 38 cents of reimbursement for every dollar. So when you consider that, that's a significant amount we're underfunded. Had we had that $13 million over the last 10 years, we wouldn't have needed an operational referendum. So that shows you the significance of the underfunding of that particular service. Our local taxpayers over the course of the past decade, when you consider our current operational referendum that we have right now, we're being funded at $950,000 this year. The unfunded portion that is coming out of Fund 10 is $1.2 million. So our operational referendum that we currently have does not even fund the unfunded portion of our special education costs. Again, our operational referendum is $950,000. We're transferring out of the fund that goes into, we're transferring over $1.2 million. So the underfunding of special education holds a significant gap for us and all schools across Wisconsin when you're funding 38 cents on the dollar. That does not fulfill the needs and the rising costs of the special education services our students require. When you have 130 students in our school district receiving special education services, we need to fund those mandates from a state level, not a local taxpayer level. That is a state funding obligation. It's not an obligation that should be put on the backs of our local taxpayers. So that's the first reason that we're looking at this consideration. The second thing that has a significant impact is over the last 17 years of Wisconsin state school funding policy, public school funding policy, we have not had inflationary increases. So when you consider the inflationary increases that have taken place over the last decade, we're looking at over 30%. Our revenue with our operational referendum has been 17%. So when you look at the gap between what our revenue is, which includes our operational referenda, and what the revenue has been coming in the district, there's a gap of 17% and 30%. So had we had inflationary increases since 2013, we would have an increase right now in our operational budget of over $2 million. $2 million. If we would have had those incremental inflationary increases, which we had up until Act 10. And they have never reinstated that because in 2009, if you all remember, we had a pretty significant recession going on. And because of that recession, we said, let's put a Band-Aid to help this recession in Wisconsin. And the Band-Aid was, we're going to freeze public school funding. As a matter of fact, it actually declined. We took a significant decline in funding. And we have never gotten back to an annual inflationary increase. So as inflation skyrockets, which it has the last 5 years in particular, our revenue has not. So the gap between what we're getting and inflation doesn't even come close to comparing. So this particular graph helps you see the change and what we would have if in fact we had those inflationary increases. And that change is significant. The last thing I would just mention is clearly the state of Wisconsin has not had the appetite to adequately fund schools, public schools from the state level. Our local taxpayers have continued to hold the burden of underfunding. So we don't have an inflationary increase, we don't have special education funding, which by the way, private schools are funded at 90% and we're funded at 38% for every dollar. If we were funded at 90%, again, we wouldn't be here other than the consideration you're making this evening. When you consider all of those things, we are at a very difficult point and a difficult decision because Wisconsin has chosen, our state has chosen to fund public schools on the backs of local taxpayers. And so our school board has had a lot of discussion about what that means and how aggressive we need to be at this point because we keep having these high hopes that the biennium budget is going to provide some relief of that tax burden on our local taxpayers, and it has not. It has done just the opposite this last biennium budget. The state put zero money into taking that burden off the taxpayers, zero. So when you consider that shift, we lost in our levy, our total levy has about a $200,000 difference. Our local taxpayers picked up a significant amount of that total tax burden this year because no money was put into state aid. So the total levy is filled up with revenue from state aid and revenue from local taxpayers. In Necedah, and this is not the case for every school district across the state, everybody's formula is different. Some schools are funded 100% by state aid. Some schools are funded almost 100% by local taxpayers. Necedah is at about 78% by local taxpayers. And that's wrong. We cannot fund constitutional mandates with local tax dollars. It's not our local taxpayers' responsibility to fund all of that. We have got to have a shift at the state level. And so our school board has been working diligently to think about how we have taxpayer advocacy here in the Necedah School District. It doesn't solve our issues immediately. We know that, and that's why tonight our board is having to make some difficult decisions and to look their friends and neighbors and family members and in the eyes to tell them, here's the decision we have to make, because we don't have a choice. So that kind of gives the backdrop. At this point, 70% of school districts in Wisconsin have gone to an operational referendum. They've had it on the ballot, 70%. And this year, that percentage is going to skyrocket. So it is the way we're doing business in Wisconsin, and our local taxpayers should not pick up the burden that our state has a constitutional obligation to fund public schools. It shouldn't be on the backs of local taxpayers only, and that is how it's been for the last decade. So, you have a resolution. The first resolution is to actually exceed the revenue limit for 4 years. That is the first resolution that's presented to you. And so Mr. McNally will do a roll call vote for that. Okay.
I so move to approve the resolution authorizing the school district's budget to exceed the revenue limit for 4 years for non-recurring purposes.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mike Court, second by Matthew McNally, to approve the resolution to authorize the school board district budget to exceed revenue limit for 4 years for non-recurring purposes. Is there any discussion?
Call for A's, Roger?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes, for myself. Dan? 5 A's, no A's.
The second resolution is a specific resolution that the board is approving to extend that revenue limit to our local taxpayers by putting it on the ballot in April.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution providing for a referendum election and question of the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit for 4 years for non-recurring purposes.
I'll second.
Motion by John Art, second by Roger Harriet. Move as stated. Matthew?
Roger, A?
Yes.
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 Dan?
Yes.
And yes for me. So 5 A's. No nays.
So the next step, I will be in the next 2 weeks putting a bunch of communication together to communicate out to the community, to allow them some sessions to be able to come in and ask questions and get an idea of what's going on and why. But I think as important, we will also be putting together our taxpayer advocacy group, and it is going to be a very important measure as we move forward. It has to be our long-term strategy, because if we don't, I mean, if not now, when? If not us, who? So it is time for our district to do everything we can in our power to address the burden that the state has put on our local taxpayers. It's time. The time is now. And it's us. So we're going to continue to move forward with that.
Handbook language update.
We have had a practice in place for several years now. We have built within our school calendar days that we can lose due to inclement weather and not lose minutes in terms of what's required at the state level. And so we have for a long time, our support staff misses pay on those days. And so knowing that we already have them budgeted for what it is are the total days and we're not making them up, we've allowed them to take sick time or PTO time. And so we've allowed that to happen. Once we pass the days that we have built in, then they can't obviously use their sick time because they're going to be making that up in person. But for the first 2 days or 2.5 days, we've allowed them to use personal time. This is just getting it clear and adding it in the handbook so it's clear to everyone when they look at the handbook. We've had it in there, but it's been pretty vague, so we're just adding a little more detail so there aren't questions that come about. So I would ask that the board consider adding that just to clean it up and make sure that employees are clear on what's expected of them.
I make a motion to approve the updated language as provided from the employee handbook.
Second.
Motion by Matthew McNally, second by Mike Quirk, to approve handbook language updated as stated. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Looks like we have no hiring or resignation. Both levels and no requests for leaves. And it looks like we have no acceptance of donations and grants. Great. So, Jessica, if you would like to start, please?
Sure thing. So we completed our assistant principal for the day in December. It's one of my favorite days. Our parent club does a fundraiser where students can put in $1 per ticket, and we draw a name out. And we have a 4K through 2 and then a 3 through 5 thing, so they get to be my assistant for the day. They get to come around and come to some meetings, do some recess duty, some lunchroom supervision. Sometimes they choose little special projects like organizing the lost and found or things that they think that need to be done. With that, our 4K student was on our holiday concert day, so she got to help me MC the concert. 4K doesn't participate in the holiday concert, but some kids would just be really nervous to be up on stage, and she was like, "Can I do my own show? Can I do a dance?" So that was really great. It's a really great time for me. And then our 3 through 5 person has put in for it the last 3 raffles and was really excited to do it. He got to help me make our December parent update. So I have a newsletter that goes out every month. So he helped with that, get those things done, and was a little disappointed that none of his friends got in trouble that day because he really wanted to handle those things and that. But that was a nice time. The parent club donations. So when people do the fundraising for that, they pay for a daily snack for all of our students. All of our field trips at elementary are paid for by the parent club, as well as birthday books and other special things that our parent club does. So it's a small group of really dedicated parents that work towards that, and things like the assistant principal raffle for a day are just one way to do that. I put some pictures in my report for that as well. Our committees met last week, including our Good Vibes Committee and our Read Across America. So Read Across America will kick off on February 23rd. We always have a couple of fun weeks where we challenge kids to read as much as they possibly can. Those who meet their goals or are the top readers, there's different prizes. There's usually some sort of punishment. For me, some years I've had to let kids dye my hair color or be turned into an ice cream sundae or whatever it is that the committee dreams up. Last year I started a music video. Not sure if that was punishment for everyone listening to me singing in the music video or what, but it's great to we visually count how many books kids can read in those 2 weeks and really get them excited about those things. So it's good. Our Kids Heart Challenge kicked off on January 7th. So we had somebody from the American Heart Association come in and do an assembly for our kids where we had some challenges and fun things. We've already had 5 students complete the hands-only CPR. Those kids, even as young as 4K and K, can go through the learning process of how to do hands-only CPR. And then they get their name up on the wall, and they get a special lunch, and they're raising money for the American Heart Association as well. Summer school is, the consideration is 20 days, which is typically what we have. Will fit in between the end of school, June 8th to July 3rd. So in between the end of school and the 4th of July, that fits us 20 days right in there. So that's what our committee is considering right now for summer school. It is assessment time. We have a lot, particularly with the Act 20 required assessments. Unfortunately, the state required assessment tool of AimsWeb had a lot of bugs last week and this week. It's been a really frustrating process yet again, but our interventionists and teachers are working really hard to get their kids tested. We have a really short window through Act 20 to get all that done, and then the diagnostics done after that. So we spend a lot of time just literally testing kids for some of those things, trying to do that really hard without disrupting the normal classroom instruction and normal intensive interventions that happen. So kudos to our group for that. I have a document in there of class list projections. I give this to you each year. You can follow the color-coded piece for how many classes we anticipate having. We again, right now, are on some weird bubbles where our AGR funding is 18 or less in a classroom. We have some classrooms at 20, 21 because of the influx of students that we have come in after the start of the year. So it just makes for really hard decisions of if we're gonna have a second classroom, are we having classes of 11, which is pretty low, but then classes of 25 are also pretty high. So we just get into some tricky spots. So I always like to look at those projections, give those out to look at those ahead of time to consider what solutions we might do. So I have a couple options that are listed there that we'll continue to look at. This depends on enrollment as well. At the elementary alone, we got 6 new students that started the week that we came back from Christmas break. So are those kids gonna stay? Are they gonna be here next year? That falls into that as well. None of them were in the same grade level. They spread out evenly across 6 different grades. So that is actually helpful for that. Some upcoming dates. Tomorrow, we have our parent club meeting at 3:30. And then our charter enrollment starts on February 2nd. So our charter school at the elementary and Vision serves grades 1 through 5. So that enrollment applications can be turned in starting on February 2nd. That closes on March 6th. Typically, the majority of the applications we get are for the current kindergartners going into first grade. So we have a cap of 15 per grade level in that. So those that information will be going out to families this week. And then on the docket for professional development, we have continued support by Paul Gasser. He's here 3 days a week for behavior and family support, helping our families navigate a lot of the things that they're going through with their students and themselves to help make it as healthy of a support system for our kids as possible. Casey Watts was our presenter for PLC that we had in the summer. We had her virtually. Our teachers recorded their PLC meetings and submitted those to Casey. She submitted feedback for them. So on this upcoming professional development day on Friday, they'll take a look at the feedback that Casey submitted and make some changes or refer back or work with Casey in one of our upcoming about how they're going to refine their PLC process. So professional learning communities are really important. The focus of what Casey Watts showed to our staff was how to use data to drive instruction and other decisions, and how to be really intentional about the time that they have together and focus on that student-driven work that they need to do. We have new teacher academy this Wednesday, as well as our upcoming February piece, which focuses on supporting our new teachers and allows them to engage with their peers of the class of 2025 that started as new teachers. It's one of the things that we've tried to help keep teacher retention and make sure that they have good support not only from the admin, but from their colleagues as well. So looking forward to spending time with our new teachers on that. And we continue our literacy support focused on our Foundations Phonics program literacy along with Act 20, as well as our English Language Arts pilot. And that's supported from our CISA 5 literacy coach, Maggie Trenda. And she's also working on our writing continuum K-12 that we're doing with a focus on some elementary assessments that we'll be working on. So lots of fun work focusing on that and trying really hard with all of the assessment time that has to be taken up in January and February. Our school will be participating in the NAEP assessment, NAEP, for 4th grade. This is the first time we've had to do that since I've been here. Schools are randomly selected. It's a national assessment. They send in some testers, and that'll be happening in February for our 4th grade students. I find it a little unfortunate. 4th grade already has the most assessments that they have to take, particularly in the forward exam. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th have to take the Wisconsin forward exam, and 4th grade has more tests than 3rd grade and 5th grade, and now they also have to take the NAEP test on top of that, as well as the reading diagnostics for Act 20 plans, as well as our benchmarks for iReady math and reading. We are getting really great data, lots of data that we'll be able to use. I'm going to look at the positive of that and say it's one more data point that we haven't had that we'll be able to use, but it's also one more day that we're going to have to give up instruction to do a test.
So during the second semester, Student Council will be focusing on a positive change in the high school. We are looking for feedback from high school students on the changes they wish to see, and we will be serving students during Connect, so Student Council members will be serving. Previous year's Change campaign brought free personal hygiene products to our bathrooms and our vending machines, being restocked and available. Some other examples that we were thinking of this year were adding a microwave to the commons or adding a recycling program. And Student Council will use these ideas to guide our plans for the rest of the year. So we were just wondering if anyone had any ideas that they would like to contribute. And it's okay if you can't think of any right now. You could always email me or Mrs. Mosley.
Mr. Duchek's wheels are turning. Thank you, Skylar. A couple quick notes here. We had our middle school speech contest is coming up on January 28th. Just want to thank Mrs. Sheely. She's kind of like a Pied Piper of writing and speech at the middle school. So she has over 20 of our students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade participating in that, and that's really cool. Our senior seminar days on February 5th. And we use senior seminar to complete scholarship apps, college apps, get questions answered for kids on different things, discuss financial aid options, job applications, kind of all those types of things on those days. We continue to work with technology and engineering consultant Chris Strozik. We partnered with Mauston with him, and so he's helping Mr. Lowry with curriculum and ideas with using that new space over there and make sure that we're using it to the best of our ability. And we have our middle school students are going on a tubing trip on February 12th. One of the goals of our middle school is to get them some positive out of school experiences where we can where they can learn how to represent us as a school. And so one of the things we're doing with that is we have our students are completing eligibility checks. Everybody is. So usually our middle school athletes do that. And so right now to get on the middle school tubing trip, you have to complete your eligibility check once a week. So also add in a responsibility component there. Mrs. Moore, our counselor, has finalized student schedules, and really we're finalizing, she's working with teachers to finalize scheduling for next year. So she's been working with Mrs. McCracken and then our teacher teams to kind of think about outside of the box, what are some different offerings that we might like to have as we move forward in our vision. And so she's working through that, and so we'll be finalizing that with teams in the coming month here to get student scheduling in March. And then, speaking of March and assessments, we have our ACT windows that comes up in March. And so March 11th to the 14th, we'll have ACT for juniors, and then we have the pre-ACT secure for freshman and sophomore, forward for grades 6 through 8. And then at the middle school, at 9th and 10th grade, we adopted iReady testing this year. And so by the end of the school year, we'll have some reasonable data that we can float from grades 2nd grade.
It's been 7 years in the elementary, yeah.
So all the way up to 10th grade, that we can have kind of a continuum and seeing what our assessment, common assessment for our kids. Our DECA chapter just had the regional competition last week. Mrs. Baker did a great job in her first year as a DECA advisor putting that together. And Skylar, to my left here, she qualified for the state DECA meet, and so she's going to be going to that in February. So congratulations on that. Skylar, can I just put you on the spot? Can you talk a little bit about a DECA competition and kind of what that's like?
So we have 2 role plays, and then we take a 100-question test. And basically you pick your event. So there are events with hospitality, marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, and I think there's a couple other clusters in there. So you take the 100-question test first, and you have an hour to do that. So it used to be 90 minutes, and they cut it down, but I feel like a lot of people finish within that time frame anyway, so it's pretty nice. And then we get 2 chances for role plays in front of 2 different judges. And there are like different events. You can do individual. First year members do principals events, which are like a little easier and it's nice for them. And then there are also team events. So there's a lot of options.
Oh, thank you, Skylar. One of the cool things about our DECA program is we've had, in the last 4 years, I think we've had 3 advisors, and hopefully have Mrs. Baker for a long time, but the kids are so passionate about it, that's what's kept it around. So sometimes it's difficult when you bring in a new teacher, and then they're struggling with their curriculum, and then to advise something like that, it was actually pretty complex. And our kids are the ones that are taking the driver's seat with that. So Skylar, thank you for your work with that, because I know you did a lot of work actually helping out our advisors, so thank you. And then last thing I want to share, we had our All-Star Band and Choir competition on Saturday, and so we had Gianna Timer, Abby Christensen, Shayla Elliott Bell, Brina Van Hoof, Haley Schultz, Ricky Smith, Liam Reynolds, all participated in choir, and Marcus Good and Brett Lofquist participated in band. Just want to thank Mr. Thies and Mrs. Jackson. They are in the midst of getting everything ready for solo ensemble and getting all those things situated for grades 6 through 12. So appreciate them taking the time for that opportunity for our kids as well. So, and then professional development wise, we are continuing this Friday with working on our universal design for learning strategies. We have a CESA facilitator, Jake Ball, who's helping us with that. And then staff continue to put together strategies that they're using on a staff strategy slide deck that we use for staff to be able to share their strategies and discuss those things on our professional development days.
All right, a couple updates from the district perspective. We are hosting a Department of Justice BTAM training, which is threat assessment training. It's during one of our professional development days, so students will not be here, but it's a state offer event. So we are hosting that, and they're gonna come in and, we'll be able to have lots of visitors and guests in our building that day. They'll be using the MPR, and then we'll have our regular professional development day going on. So we're excited to actually host people here in our building. It's fun to have people visit and ask questions about what we're doing and see our building. The other thing that kind of coincides with that is we are moving to standard response protocol for our response system internally. And so on Friday, we're providing staff, all of us staff in our district will have training on Friday with moving to some new language. The purpose of that is to have all the districts within the state of Wisconsin have the same response. So When we have our response system activated, the response is going to be the same as any other school district with the same crisis. So it gives first responders the knowledge about what's going on and not have to guess what that means in Necedah versus what that means in New Lisbon versus what that means in Boston. It's a standards response protocol, so when they hear something, they know exactly what's going on. So we'll have that training on Friday. I shared with you a copy of our community newsletter. We're still waiting for that printing, but that should go out hopefully this week yet. It's just taken a while to get that. That has a lot of our finance information, the winter one does. So I'm hoping to get that out soon so our community can have some time with that. We just scheduled February through March community outreach events. Our outreach events are a way for us to provide a return on the investment to our taxpayers by providing opportunities here at the school building. And so those events just went out, and there's a lot of nice things being offered. We have some staff actually now participating. We have Pete Lowry is going to offer some metal, making metal signs down in our CTE classroom with adult outreach. So that'll be a nice opportunity for people that we haven't had. And also I wanted to mention Mickey Maddox was approved as a teacher for a trip to Poland. It's at the end of the school year. She has primarily senior classes, and so it's a paid trip through a scholarship that she received. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. She is going as a professional educator of Wisconsin and will be able to bring back things from that trip to Poland. She does not have to request any unpaid leave or anything, so, but I did want you aware of that. It's a pretty nice scholarship that she received. We had our NOAC skate party last week. It was a pretty cool event. We had probably 75 people throughout the evening there. A little chilly, but we had a fire and s'mores and lots of kids on the ice, so it was a good day. Good evening. They're doing some pretty cool things. And last but not least, I did want to mention we have a group of teachers on our district leadership team. We have our next community visioning session coming up in February, and our teachers are going to share their 30-day challenge, what it is they have dedicated themselves to do to better meet the needs of kids in their classrooms around the skills of our graduate profile. And so, we are absolutely as focused on building skills with kids than we are just the standards, the academic standards. And so we're really trying to hone in on that to make sure our kids are building those lifelong skills that are important to our Necedah community. So they'll be presenting their challenge on that visioning night that we have coming up in February. They've been working on that now for a few weeks, so that's all I have.
Okay. So we're gonna move into closed session, considering adjournment of closed session under Wisconsin State Statute 19.851G, confer with legal counsel regarding strategy for potential fiscal litigation and pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 1851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of the school superintendent over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Dan? Yes. 5 yes.